In this video, we will dive into the movie Venom: The Last Dance 2024. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide the reviews and share some personal reactions. Let's begin with the movie story. The film opens on the planet Klyntar, home of the symbiotes. Their creator, Knull, has been imprisoned there due to his cruel and terrifying ways. He seeks the Codex, which would grant him his freedom and allow him to wreak havoc upon the universe. Knull sent out his minions, the xenophages, to hunt down the one symbiote to possession of the Codex. Eddie Brock and Venom are drunk in Mexico in Earth 616, the same portal that Knull opened to send the xenophages through open up to pull the two back to their own universe in front of the same pretender. Venom proceeds to try and make a drink until he and Eddie see that Eddie is a wanted fugitive for the supposed death of Patrick Mulligan. Unable to return to San Francisco, Eddie resolves to head back to New York City. Even though he was banned from there, he claims to have enough dirt on the judge to allow him to clear his name. On their way out, Eddie and Venom overhears the sounds of panic and danger. They are led to a secret warehouse where dogs are being kept to fight. The four thugs that operate the ring confront Eddie and prepare to kill him, but he lets Venom do this thing and toss the thugs around before setting the dogs loose to their revenge. Venom then grabs each of the thugs with his tentacles and chops all of their heads off. Eddie and Venom set the rest of the dogs free and start to make their way toward New York City, unaware that a xenophage is following them. General Rex Strickland is summoned by his mysterious boss to investigate the case around Eddie and Venom. He goes to the bar that the two were at since they left behind a sample of Venom. Strickland questioned the bartender about what he saw before ordering his men to bring him in. Somewhere in Nevada, we meet Mr. T.D. Penny, who is having a nightmare about when she was a child and her twin brother died when they ran through a thunderstorm. Teddy was struck by lightning, but the current passed through her and electrocuted her brother since she was holding her hand. Teddy gets a call summoning her to Area 51, which is said to be decommissioned in 3 days' time. There she meets her colleague Sadie R. Christmas along with Strickland. Teddy Lab is researching the other recovered symbiotes that came to Earth around the same time as Venom. The three then go to containment cell that is holding Mulligan, who is hosting the symbiote known as Toxin. Speaking through Mulligan, Toxin warns the three about the threat that Knull possesses. Venom forces Eddie to hang onto a plane on the way to New York. They are attacked by the xenophage before managing to send it through the turbine through it regenerates on the ground. Venom makes Eddie jump off the parachute all the way down, landing in the middle of nowhere. Venom then comes clear about Knull and why they are being hunted. The Codex is formed when a symbiote and its host life forces are combined, which happens if a symbiote saves the host from death. This already happened because Venom revived Eddie when he was impaled by Riot. The xenophage can detect the Codex if Venom is fully formed, so he stays hidden in Eddie for now. They then spot a horse and Venom possesses it so that they can move faster. Strickland sends his mercenaries to track down Eddie and Venom. The two get cornered by a river and must swim to safety. Eddie fires two mercenaries while separated from Venom, and he is forced to shoot one of them in self-defense, which he feels remorseful for. Venom eventually catches up to Eddie and rescues him before they go over a waterfall. Before the mercenaries can take them out, the xenophage catches up to them, devouring and shedding the marsh like a wood chipper. Eddie and Venom use this opportunity to escape. Toxin makes his trooper visible to TD and Sadie, informing them that Venom is carrying the codex and as long as he lives, the whole world is in danger. Meanwhile, Strickland is ingrained at the loss of his soldiers and he plans to go after Eddie and Venom himself. Eddie walks until he comes across a happy family, the Moons, Martin, and Nova, plus their kids Echo and Leaf. They give Eddie food and agree to give him a ride as far as Vegas since they are trying to see Area 51 before it is decommissioned. They hit the road and sing Space Oddity before the evening falls. Venom muses to Eddie about how he could have been a good family man, especially when he moves with Leaf after reassuring him that he will not find any scary aliens. The family drops Eddie and Venom off in Vegas before parting ways. Eddie tries to get into a casino but is denied entry because he is dressed too casually. Venom headbutts the gay unconscious before they find another drunk guy and knock him out too and take his suit. Inside, Eddie and Venom run into Mr. Chain, who welcomes them to her room to clear up. She convinces Venom to come out and dance with her, but this leads the xenophage to track them down easily, although it runs off once Venom disappears. This allows Strickland and his goons to apprehend Eddie and Venom after separating them. The Moons arrive at Area 51 just as Eddie wakes up there. Strickland pulls Eddie out of his cells to personally execute him to destroy the Codex. He or Venom has to die, but Venom head latches onto Sadie and then jumps back to Eddie to save him. The xenophage shows up with Toxin holding it off long enough to allow Venom to run before the xenophage eats and shred him too. The other Samotis are soon set free by Titi and Sadie, with them latching on to other scientists to unleash their true forms. The symbiotes battle the xenophage, but it is constantly regenerating and impossible to kill, and it also manages to kill some of the other Samotis. The xenophage breaks out of the facility while the Moons witness. Eddie goes after them to get them to safety just as the xenophage summoned other creatures like her to back her up. Sadie, now the symbiote Lasher, leads the other symbiotes to fight. Eddie helps the Moon get away after rescuing them from falling from a tower. Venom lures the xenophage away from killing Lasher by bringing them to a kill zone with help from Strickland, who switches side after his attempt to kill a xenophage ends with the accident death of one of their people. They blow up two xenophages while Venom rides a motorcycle and decapitates another one. Unfortunately, more and more xenophages show up, outnumbering them, and one of them kills Lasher after she separates from Sadie. Eddie and Venom knows what must be done and they decided to do it together. Eddie and Venom walk out into the open to lower the xenophage to them. Venom wraps all of them within himself and pushes Eddie out of him to a safe distance. Strickland activates a container of acid to shower Venom and the xenophage together. Venom bids Eddie bye for now and covers him just as Strickland detonates a grenade since he is getting sprayed with acid too, and the entire place blows up, destroying the xenophage for good, which the Codex gone. Knull is also forced back inside his prison. Eddie activates her own symbiote, Agony, and uses her super speed to get herself and Sadie to safety before they get caught in the explosion. Eddie wakes up in a hospital where a federal official tells him that thanks to what he did, his criminal record has been erased and he can go back to living a normal life as long as he doesn't tell anybody what he encountered. Eddie finally makes his trip to New York City. He goes to visit the Statue of Liberty, just like Venom wanted. As he sits to enjoy the view, Eddie talks time to remember his best friend. The mid-credit scene is Knull vows revenge and promises to lay waste to the universe now that Venom is gone. The post-credit scene is that Pretender escaped from the remains of Area 51. Not far from him, a cockroach appears to possess a piece of woman symbiote. Now let's talk about the biography of the main cast. Tom Hardy, born September 15, 1977, London, England, is a British actor who is known for his idiosyncratic personality and cerebral performance in both cult films and mainstream blockbusters, including Inception 2010, The Dark Knight Rises 2012, Mad Max Fury Road 2015, Dunkirk 2017, and The Venom, the three-part franchise. Hardy's childhood and early adulthood gave little indication that he would one day become a movie star. He was expelled from school, was arrested for joyriding while in possession of a gun, and became addicted to drugs and alcohol while still a teenager. In 1998, he won a televised modeling competition which led to an industry contract. He began his acting studies at Drama Central London, but he was again expelled. Nevertheless, in 2001, he earned small role in the television miniseries Band of Brothers and in the film Black Hawk Down. Hardy's career failed to truly take off, however, until after he entered a drug rehabilitation program in 2003 following a crack-induced collapse on a London street. Hardy then appears in a number of plays and British TV miniseries, notably Oliver Twist 2007 as Bill Sykes and Wuthering Heights 2009 as Heathcliff. His first major film role was in Rock'n'Rolla 2008, in which he played Handsome Bob, a homosexual gangster, but his breakthrough came that same year with his next film, Bronson, a fictionalized biography of Charles Bronson, a man known as Britain's most notorious and violent prison. Hardy's tour de force performance, which featured him frequently strapping down both literally and emotionally, was widely praised and led to his return to Hollywood with scene-stealing roles in the film Inception and Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. After starring in the well-received mixed martial arts drama Warrior 2011 and the romantic comedy Dude, This Means War 2012, Hardy reunited with his Inception director Christopher Nolan to play Bane, the muscle-bound anarchist who faces off against Batman in the comic book blockbuster The Dark Knight Rises 2012. Following the biggest box office hit of his career to date, Hardy made a typical for him move back to the art house, starring as a title character in Lock 2013, a film that takes place almost entirely in a car, with Hardy as the only character who appears on screen for the entire movie. In 2015, he starred in George Miller's Max and in the movie is Mad Max Fury Road as Max Rocktansky, a role that was made famous in the 1980s by Mel Gibson. Hardy put his own stamp on the character and helped make the film Revival a massive critical and commercial hit. Also in 2015, he earned acclaim as John Fitzgerald, a villainous trapper in Alejandro Gonzalez The Revenant. For his performance, Hardy earned his first Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. In his next film, Dunkirk 2017, Hardy portrayed a British fighter pilot involved in the evacuation of Allied troops from France during World War II. The highly praised drama was directed by Nolan. Hardy then returned to comic book movies with Venom 2018, in which he assumed the lead role of Eddie Brock and his titular alter ego. He started in the 2021 sequel Venom Let There Be Carnage and in the third film of the series Venom The Last Dance 2024. In 2020, he appeared as the title character in Coupon, a biopic that centers on the mobster's later years. Hardy later stayed with Austin Butler and Jodie Comer in The Bike Riders 2023. The well-received drama centers on member of a motorcycle club. During his time, Hardy continued to occasionally appear on television. He had a recurring role on Peaky Blinders, a series about British gangster in the early 90s, with his father, Chips Hardy, and Stephen Knight. He created the mini-series Taboo 2017 to continue. The period drama started Hardy as an adventurer who is believed to have died but instead returns home to seek revenge against various fears. Our next main character is Chiwetel Ejiofor. Chiwetel Ejiofor, born July 10, 1977, London, England, is an award-winning British actor, writer, and director known for bringing a quiet gravitas and multidimensionality to a wide variety of roles. He became a familiar screen presence in the 2000s with parts in Dirty Pretty Things 2002, Love Actually 2003, and Kinky Boots 2005, and went on to receive high praise for his role in 12 Years a Slave 2013. Directed his own feature film and appeared in big budget Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. His early life and career. Ejiofor was born in the Forest Gate district of London to Nigerian parents Abijola Justina, a pharmacist, and Arinze Ejiofor, a doctor. Both were of Igbo descent and emigrated from Nigeria during its civil war 1967 to 70. He has an elder brother, Obenzi Ejiofor, and two younger sisters, Zan and Asher, a news correspondent, and Candy Ejiofor, a doctor. At the age of 11, Ejiofor and his father were visiting Nigeria when they were in a car accident. His father was killed in the collision and Ejiofor suffered serious injuries. Ejiofor and his siblings were then raised by their single mother. He attended Dulwich College, London, and acted in school plays. By age 13, he had become a member of the National Youth Theatre, London, and went on to attend the prestigious London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art (LAMDA). He made his television debut in 1996, appearing in an episode of the British television anthology series Screen 2. In 1997, Ejiofor was cast in the movie Amistad, directed by Steven Spielberg. Rules in the 2000s. Following his appearance in that high-profile film, Ejiofor left the school and balanced his time working in films, television, and theatre. He garnered critical acclaim for a few of his earlier roles, including a patient in a psychiatric hospital in that play Blue Orange 2000, for which he won the London Evening Standard Theatre Award for Outstanding Newcomer. Ejiofor also received a British Independent Film Award for Best Actor and an American Black Film Festival Award for Best Performance by an Actor for his lead part in Dirty Pretty Things 2002. Ejiofor worked steadily throughout the 2000s, appearing in the hit romantic comedy Love Actually 2003, the British comedy Kinky Boots 2005, the dystopian thriller Children of Men 2006, and the crime drama American Gangster 2007. He also had roles in the number of Spike Lee films, including She Hate Me 2004 and Inside Man 2006. On the stage, Ejiofor assumed the title role in William Shakespeare's Othello 2007, garnering a Laurence Olivier Award for his performance. He also wrote and directed a short film called Slapper 2007 about a young boy who thinks a masked fighter could be his missing father. 12 Years a Slave and other films of the 2010. In 2013, Ejiofor gained widespread recognition for his portrayal of Solomon Northup, the real-life subject of Steve McQueen's film 12 Years a Slave, which was based on Northrup's 1853 memoir about being a free black man abducted and sold into slavery. For the pivotal role, Ejiofor won the BAFTA Award for Best Leading Actor, and he was nominated for an Academy Award. Ejiofor continued to choose a wide range of roles, including a professor supporting the Republic of Biafra in the adaptation of Chimamanda Adichie 2013, a NASA official in the Martian 2015, and the villain Mardo in the Marvel Cinematic Universe 2016 film adaptations of Doctor Strange. He reprised the last role in the 2022 sequel Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. He also lent his voice to the villainous scare in Disney's remake of The Lion King 2019. In 2019, Ejiofor directed his first feature-length film, The Boy Who Harnesses the Wind, in which he played the father of a boy trying to save his Malvlian village from famine. The film, which was based on a true story, received wide acclaim, and Ejiofor won the NAACP 2020 Image Award for Outstanding Directing in a Motion Picture. Part in the 2020s. In the early 2020s, Ejiofor appeared alongside Charlize Theron in the action thriller The Old Guard 2020 and Annie Hathaway in the Chapel Lockdown 2021. In 2022, he starred in the television series The Man Who Fell to Earth, the sequel to the 1976 film of the same name, which starred David Bowie. Venom The Last Dance movie review. Let there be garbage. When it comes to reviewing movies, you often have to work hard at coming up with some kind of pithy one-liner to scantily encapsulate your thoughts, and then other times, like in the case of the third and final Venom movie, the line just writes itself, and embarrassingly sloppy culmination for this unlikely franchise. There's nothing that can save The Last Dance. In the interest of full disclosure, I have never been a fan of these movies, even forgetting and the awkwardness of Sony Pictures making a movie about a Spider-Man character without Spider-Man in it poorly so they could keep the character right away from the Marvel. The first Venom film in 2018 was fine in a pre-MCU novelized comic book movie kind of way. However, its 2021 follow of Venom Let There Be Carnage was an aggravating study in wasted source material and stupid creative decisions. Both films at least had starred Tommy Hardy's entertainingly go-for-broke, physically unhinged performance as both journalist Eddie Brock and the titular alien symbiote bonded to him. Going for them, in the last dance, Harley seems visibly tired throughout, resulting it would be gags falling noticeably flat, while the wildly charming odd couple vibe that Eddie and Venom previously shared new coming across as grating and puerile. And this is supposed to be the epic final horror for the version of the character on screen until some Sony studio execs change their mind. This is rather disappointing, but Hardy's lethargy could be attributed to the fact that he seemingly had to make several different versions of this movie at once. At least I assume, as much as it's been a while since I have seen a movie where the "we will fix it in post" approach is so painfully clear to see. Writer-director Kelly Marcel, who also penned Let There Be Carnage and makes her directing debut here, seemingly tries to stuff about three movies worthy of plot beats into one, abruptly adding out in some aspect with glaring obviousness. Background characters with barely any dialogue suddenly take center stage in the film's final, with Marcel constantly trying to get the audience to care about their fates. Other characters are strongly hinted as being more important, only to end up as nothing more than random pelps. And one mysterious unnamed character in the movie is even blatantly revealed in the credits to actually be a recurring figure from the first two movies that somehow had a massive change of fate, all of which is simply not mentioned at all in this movie. I swear if I squinted my eye just right, I could see the tape on screen holding frames together. As for all the various plate beats, the first lands in the opening sense of the movie as we get introduced to Knull, a dark god of the Abyss who created Venom brains of sabotage ages ago, only for them to imprison him on a stormy planet but still leave with themselves the key to unlock his proverbial cell. This key was inadvertently activated by Eddie Venom during the events of the previous film, and Knull now dispatches new minions, the Xenophages, to retrieve it from them. We know all this because Knull tells us, talking directly to the audience in the first of many laughably awkward exposition dumps throughout the movie. Prepare yourself for military personnel and scientists who have worked together for years, all randomly explaining their full jobs and backgrounds to each other. Slight spoiler for fans of Knull hoping to see the King is Black in action here, temper your expectation way down. In fact, just forget all the wild crossover rumors you may have here. Getting back to the military personnel and scientists, we have Chiwetel Ejiofor's General Strickland, the blusterly military license for a special covered division tasked with capturing all sabotage on Earth, and Juno Temple's Dr. T.D. Payne, the morally grey scientist in charge of studying the alien entities. Both want to get their hands on Venom for different reasons. Meanwhile, Eddie and Venom are mid-road trip from Mexico to New York on the run and trying to clear Eddie's name after authorities think he was behind the death of a police detective infected by Carnage in the previous film. Along the way, they also encounter Rhys Ifans' Martin Moon, a hippie who is trekking cross country with his family to Area 51 to complete his lifelong dream of seeing an alien. There's also half a dozen new sabotage dance routine, a Venom horse, a newly tweaked version of the post-credit scene from Spider-Man No Way Home, and more. It's a lot. Not helping is how Marcel pacing starts throughout. We rush through certain key bits and then get an extended family sing-along sequence set to David Bruce's masterpiece, Speciality admittedly through. It is the most emotionally engaged moment of the entire film as Eddie contemplates the enormously he is given up for his crazy symbiote life. Similarly, the film's third act boasts a rather aptly short battle royale that should give fans of the more recent Venom comic a huge grin. A few more enjoyable moments like these admittedly prepare the last dance throughout, but their presence just helps to highlight how ungainly the rest of it is. You don't need to devolve to a Simpsons level of egregious nitpicking for the gaping plot holes and character inconsistencies to glare at you. For the most part, none of the cast are bad despite Hardy's sleepwalking at times. They just don't have the materials to work with, or in the case of Ifans and his arc, are seemingly lost in the wrong movie. And when Marcel and co give us what is supposed to be an emotionally cathartic moment that touches on all of Eddie and Venom's adventures to now set to that shared in Maroon 5 DT memories of all things, it come across as so disingenuous as to be unintentionally funny. Hell, it's probably the biggest laugh I had in the entire 100 minute plus runtime. At the very least, I expected Venom The Last Dance to be a better movie than Let There Be Carnage. At that bar was so low that an unhorsed symbiote could slither over it. And initially, as I walked out of the theater, I felt that it had met that minimum requirement. But after thinking on it some more, it's clear that this franchise grand final is even more of a grand final, and this has been reflected at the box office this weekend past with the lowest opening of the entire trilogy by a large margin. With similar creative and commercial explosion for Morbius and Medium Web, and the upcoming Craven the Hunter not exactly inspiring confidence. Plus no other big screen project in development, this could be the beginning of the end of Sony's Spider-Man-less Spider-Man universe. Venom the Last Man is in the cinemas now, having release on 25 October. Venom the Last Ant review, the best in the trilogy, is still an inconstant maze. I doubt I am going to incite much uproar when I say I am not exactly a huge fan of the Venom films. Not only did the film's success pave the way for even more ill-conceived films like Morbius and Medium Web, but the mere idea of making a story about Venom without establishing Spider-Man first is a tough pill to swallow. I try to not let my comic book fan side of my brain play too much with the film kinetic side, but the entire purpose of this character is to be the direct aesthetic of Peter Parker. That's the whole reason he is called Venom, because spiders has venom. 2018 Venom is a huge waste of potential, not doing nearly enough to make the audience care about Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy, or his symbiote companion. Venom Let There Be Carnage is a slightly improvement, though not necessarily because it was better. It was just so silly to the point where it was entertaining, and that same argument can be applied to the final film in the trilogy, Venom The Last Dance. Despite getting off to a strong start and giving us one of the best portrayal of Eddie Brock and Venom, yet the film is still bogged down by a litany of other issues that distract from the positive aspects. Venom The Last Ant takes place directly after the end credit scene of Spider-Man No Way Home, which the film decides to entirely reshoot for some reasons. Now back in their own universe, Eddie and Venom are still on the run from the law, only to then become the targets of a ruthless secret black ops organization. Not only that, Knull, the shadowy and powerful creature of the symbiote race, has also sent a small legion of xenophages after Venom to fulfill his deadly plan. Venom themselves doesn't miss a step in Venom The Last Dance. I may have my issue with all three Venom films, but one thing that I will not dispute is Tom Hardy's dedicated performance as both Eddie Brock and Venom's. It's evidently clear that Venom has a lot of love from Venom as a character, and he is poured that love into the film. As co-writer, Venom The Last Dance further doubles down on making Eddie and Venom more comedic anti-heroes, but this time it works much more in its favor. Their banter is better than ever, and The Last Dance is easily the most effectively funny film in the trilogy. There are even some emotional beats between Eddie and Venom that overall work amidst the absurd scenarios that get up to. Character-wise, Venom has never been better, and that goes double for the action sequence that gets swept up in. The Last Stand has by far the best action sequence in the trilogy, starting with the standout fight with some low-life criminal that make excellent use of both Eddie and Venom's skill sets. Other notable sequences include a thrilling chase scene that sees Venom take control of multiple animals and a final battle full of very creative imaginary. As far as visual flair and entertainment values go, Venom The Last Stand stands much taller than its predecessors. Venom The Last Stand stumbled with boring subplots and side characters. With the best portrayal of Venom yet and a surprisingly fantastic first fight, it would appear that Venom The Last Dance is really onto something and then the military shows up. In addition to Knull, Eddie and Venom are also being pursued by a secretive military organization led by symbiote Wrangle, Rex Strickland, and scientist Dr. Payne and Dr. Sadie. The film an admirable attempt to give these brand new characters some dimension, but the story falls completely flat compared to the carefree Venom shenanigans. Not only are the three performances from three more than reputable performers on display there rather underwhelming, but their stories and character arc could not be less interesting. One of the characters' quirky personality trait is just liking Christmas. This boring subplot could be forgiven if it was a tiny aspect of the movie, but this bland detour is given almost as much screen time as Eddie and Venom. The perhaps one who fares even worse is the film's technical villain, Knull, who really should have been more like the talented actor who plays him and been kept a secret. Instead, Venom: The Last Dance is yet another superhero film that just could not keep its secret under lock and key, the Knull being featured prominently in the marketing only to be a clear bid to boost ticket sales. I cannot even really tell you I like Knull portrayal in Venom: The Last Stand because the film doesn't give him enough of the chance to make an impression. Could he be a potentially compelling big bad and Sony's own equivalent to Thanos? Perhaps, but his introduction in the third and final Venom film is just that, an introduction and not a particularly engaging one at that. Instead, the true villains of Venom: The Last Knot are the xenophages, who are nothing more than powerful monsters devoid of any personality. Really, the only interesting thing about them is the way that kill their victims, which is surprisingly brutal for a PG-13 film. They simply serve to go after the many characters such as Martin and his family of alien chasers who are harmlessly entertaining. Venom: The Last Stand has tons of plot holes and inconsistencies. Another issue with the xenophages in Venom: The Last Dance is how inconstantly they are. One minute they are inches away from slaughtering Eddie and Venom, the next they forget about them entirely. That's despite them still being able to kind of see as they rip other non-venomized people to shed in an instant. It's one of many examples of the film contradicting its own logic and ideas introduced in the period films, all of which make for a messy continuity that rivals even that of the X-Men films. In a wide roundabout way, Venom: The Last Dance being the most inconsistent of the Venom trilogy is the most consistent thing for the Venom franchise. This is a saga that is filled with pros and cons and ups and downs, all to bring a fan favorite comic book character to the big screen. A character that, over their long comic book story, has hopped back and forth between good and evil, goofy and sinister, and so on. Is Venom: The Last Art the best film in the trilogy? I would say so, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't have quite a bit of fun while watching it. However, at the end of the day, the Venom film franchise is like that kid on the Title League baseball team who gets the most improved trophy. You see and appreciate how they put the work in the try and be better, but deep down you know they probably will not be playing long enough to be remembered in the major league. Venom: The Last Dance is bad on purpose. Venom: The Last Dance begins the way so many promising movies do, with the villain explaining what his deal is in an opening monologue that was clearly added in because either test audience or studio executive found him too confusing. The thing is, it's no less confusing for being laid out in flat terms over a montage of Frank Ferrazita imaginary of a savage fantasy wilderness. The villain Knull is a godlike figure who apparently validates the universe he created and then was betrayed and imprisoned by the race of alien sabotage that Venom belongs to. In the movie, he manifests as a mace of dirty blonde hair hedged in the middle of a swamp. As Venom the Last Stand progresses and it becomes clear that Knull is just going to remain in that swamp and dispatch portal hopping, spider lizard monster things to do his bidding. You might start to get that sinking feeling that accompanies so many late period superhero movies when you realize that part of the shit happening on screen is in service to some future installment that may or may not ever arrive. Venom the Last Night is supposed to be the end of a trilogy, it's right there in the title, and yet it flaws some future big bad seemingly out of habit, like the need to never resolve thing in a feature, and not a bug of these movies, a promise that next time things will actually get good. Have any of the women been good? The first one was essentially a medium web quality enterprise held together by Tom Hardy's decision to play his character's transformation from investigative journalist to carnivorous vigilant as a one-day buddy comedy. The subsequent follow-ups have had the misfortune of being it on that joke and leaning into it with increasingly goofy bits like Venom cooking breakfast, which happens in Venom Let There Be Carnage, and Venom dancing to ABBA as he does in Venom The Last Dance, which finds screenwriter Kelly Marcel stepping up to directing duties. Hardy has remained compelling throughout and spends most of his new movie hung over in cargo shorts and Hawaiian shirts, getting yanked from location to location while looking like he is about to hurl. A comic book hero who never get to look cool, but Hardy is one of the great leading weirdos of our era, and the fact that he has spent years now making these half-hearted affairs remotely watchable doesn't actually feel like much of an accomplishment. Three feature is a lot to hang on Hardy doing a digital enhanced version of a hang puppet act. There's a certain point at which you have to wonder if instead of applauding his ability to sneak a subversively odd performance into a franchise product, he and everyone else involved would not be better served just making a movie that's daring to begin with. Venom The Last Dance is as much as it's anything a road trip movie that begins with Hardy's Eddie Brock on the run in Mexico. He attempts to head to New York and instead ends up in the Nevada deserts where scientist Dr. Teddy Piney and General Rock Strickland are running Imperium, an underground program for the study of sabotage next to the soon-to-be decommissioned site of Area 51. This is less a journey than a plot convergence while Strickland and his special ops forces have been tracking Eddie in their efforts to gather sabotage. Eddie and Venom have also attracted the attention of one of Knull's hinge monster for a reason that even the character within the movie have trouble explaining. Basically, the Eddie Venom combination is key to Knull's freedom through the hinge monster, which are called xenophages, can home is on the dew only when they are in full black, toothy form. This is regrettably because Venom only really looks good that way, though the effects are in general a little less janky in this installment than the previous two. Instead, we get a lot of Venom as a floating head coming out of Eddie's back, as well as horse venom, fish venom, and frog venom, as the pair try to evade capture by Imperium and by the xenophages, which can leap thousands of feet, cannot be killed by traditional means, and have a mouth that operates as a wood chipper for flesh. The solution for the problem is that Eddie and our Venom has to die, an issue that the entire movie tries to pretend is not obvious in order to include digression about the death of Dr. Pine's brother in a lightning accident or about a road-tripping happy family led by an aliens-obsessed Rhys Ifans or a sequence early on in which the movie rigged on the post-credit scene from Spider-Man No Way Home, while Venom howls about how he is so done with the multiverse shit. The lack of current stakes matter less than the general feeling that the movie is bad on purpose, in addition to being bad accidentally, which is the only way to explain why there's a shadowy character in a control booth whose identity is never revealed and whose presence is never explained. It makes weird gestures toward wanting to be about regret and mortality, then include a mounting cut to Maroon 5 as a for thinking there was never any intention for getting Singer. Venom the Last Art is not a lark but a smirk to let you know that while everyone may be aware of what it's up to, you are the sucker who bought the ticket. Venom The Last Dance is a difficult movie to grapple with. It's more poor than most superhero projects. It does not care about any other project after it. It lives in its own movement. There is something genuine about it while never taking itself too seriously. A brief scene involved Eddie Brock looking up at the stars in wholesome and well directed. The entire last sequence is a mess of multicolored go and explosion, yet it's the most entertaining of any superhero movie of the year. Tom Hardy's voice is off-putting throughout the entire movie, but eventually it settles and starts to work. Eddie Brock is an entirely different being from the first two movies, devolving into a character that gets distracted by a dance. It's a stupid movement, but the third Venom movie is not going to offer much in terms of nuance regarding Venom's character. It should not. Seeing Eddie and Venom interact in the most entertaining part of the movie, it's finally clicked. They are like a healthy and well communicating couple. Nothing else should really be shown. Getting these two interacting is the only reason this movie works on any level. Plotting the entire movie on paper leads to the meaningless task. The Venom movie does not care about its own plot. The B plot does not work and is underdeveloped. I don't know if anyone else aside from Tom Hardy knows what kind of movie this is, and that is perfectly okay. Expecting nothing from this aside from a good time is the ideal way to go into this. This method offers the viewer a few moments that surprisingly work really well. The score for a Venom for me is rather generic, but one moment stand out. I was oddly shocked when visually interesting shots appeared. Seeing Venom use his power is an interesting way to really give everything ever needed in a movie like this. The Venom franchise finally understands itself and it's only taken 3 movies. There deserves to be more movies in this series. This is Kelly Marcel's first feature and it's not a bad start. She has a clear direction and vision which the first 2 movies don't. It offers one of the best time in the theater this year and is well worth the money. Venom The Last Art Sit Me or has the horror season at the box office not been very interesting this year. I cannot think a single movie in that genre I particularly wanted to see. What I did want to see was the movie supposedly at the end of the Sonyverse Venom series of film featured Tom Hardy and which nicked off in 2018. I'll comment straight off here by saying that I am not too familiar with Venom as he appeared in Marvel Comics. My only real base for this character is from these films, although I have looked into him a little in my own time. That means that I will not be nodding out overlord details in his review. I'll instead be going onto it as I think most of the audience will, as someone who has some interest in the franchise as has seen the previous films. If you have not yet watched Venom 2018 and Venom Let There Be Carnage, I would highly recommend that you do so before you watch this film so you have more context going in. That said, there is not much else to say. Expect that from this point on, there will be plot spoiler for this film and maybe some of the aforementioned films. I should also mention that I missed a small part of the film's beginning. I came in where Eddie and Venom were hangover and wandering the streets. I doubt I missed too much, but if the film was a solid 10/10 for the first 10 minutes or so, do tell me in the comments. The beginning of the film picks up from the end of the previous one. If you have no idea what happened in that, then don't worry, nobody expected to remember any of this and it probably will not matter. Edie and the women Sembut were stuck in the main multiverse that all the other characters from other films are in. But then they ended up back in their own universe where there is no Spider-Man so far or anything like that. Look, these movies universe are always confusing to me. Most people refer to the word Edie and women came from and then return to it as the Sonyverse as Sony is mainly in charge. Incidentally, most fans don't like the Sonyverse. So Edie and Venom are getting drunk in Mexico where they are hiding as they have been blamed for the murder of Detective Patrick Mulligan and who I have forgotten was in the last film until I read the IMDb page for it before writing this paragraph. The two realize they must go to New York City to clear his name using a lawyer there, but not before a few more drinks. We get to a scene where a hangover Eddie wandering around and he finds a place where some bad guys are keeping dogs for cruel animal fighting. It's a little tense, but we know that women's going to do something, and predictably, all the bad guys end up with their heads getting bitten off by the symbiote, who needs a chemical that can only be found in brains and chocolate to sustain himself. The previous films has been criticized for not being gruesome enough when it comes to detail like this, mostly so they conform to a lower age rating. But this brings a bit more balance as you can clearly see people having their heads removed, although there are no fountain of blood in this sense. Neither Eddie nor Venom realize that an incredibly powerful alien called the Xenophage is tracking them for a reason that will become clear later on, and for my amusement, I'll refer to the Xenophage as the wood cyber alien for now on. For those who don't know, Xenobite is this universal powerful alien being that can do all sorts of crazy things, including having superhero-like powers. Venom has powers similar to the Nemesis Spider-Man, still they need a compatible host to survive. When said host dies, if a symbiote is quick enough, it can revive its host as Venom did in the first movie. A side effect of this is that a codex is made, which is a key to opening a prison that a character called Knull, who is played by Andy Serkis, the Lord of the Rings trilogy Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, is locked in. Venom explained that much himself, but Knull is not explained much more than that, although it's mentioned that he created the symbiotes, and if he gets let out of his space prison, it's bad news. Now the wood cyber alien is incredibly sensitive to the codex but can only fully see it when Venom takes over and became the full super suit. When the codex is revealed, however, the wood cyber alien becomes incredibly aggressive and can do crazy things like jump huge distances and run at immense speed. This is handy as the quickest way Venom tries to take Eddie to New York City is by holding onto the side of an aeroplane. Wade was not even affected by the sounds of nearby planes due to the high volume, high-pitched sounds their jet engines emit in previous movies. Yet, but this movie will not happen if I remember that, so let's all forget it together. Eddie and Venom nearly escape by jumping off the plane with Venom acting as a parachute, but they are then stranded in the desert and forced to walk and talk to one another. The movie has a couple of subplots, with the main one being that underneath Area 51 there's a secret facility which is holding and researching other symbiotes. Rex Strickland, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, is the main army guy in the film and is tracking down Eddie and Venom, catching them as they trek through the desert. Venom has no choice but to take over and try to escape, thus revealing their location to the wood cipher alien, which appears almost immediately and earns its name by eating some of the soldiers and spewing out fountains of blood in mere moment as if they were nothing. I am glad they fixed the lake of blood issue they previously had in these films, and the wood cipher alien is pretty horrifying on screen. Anyway, Eddie and Venom nearly escape Strickland tropes and the wood cipher alien and come across Martin a happy and Rhys Ifans, Harry Potter and Deathly Hollow Part 1 and House of the Dragon TV series, and his family on their way to Los Angeles and onwards to Area 51 is an old Volkswagen camper van. The movie seems to take a pause here on the one hand, and we get Detective Mulligan, who's still alive and stuck in Area 51 with a symbiote of his own, explaining the plot if Knull escapes his space prison. On the other hand, we get a musical number from the Happy family, with Eddie looking uncomfortable while Venom sings along inside his head. Honestly, this van ride scene is all over the place and is pretty campy, but it is calmed down for the last part and it has some genuinely good sense where Eddie and Venom talk honestly with each other, which is nice. When they arrive in Las Vegas, Eddie and Venom split with the Happies and manage to get into the casino of the Paris Hotel, where they run into Mars Chen Bigelow dealing with Dad and Rock Bottom, her other work, who used to run their local shop in San Francisco and possibly still does. They go to her penthouse suite which she won somehow, and the movie interrupts its own plot again to share an ABBA dance number. Don't get me wrong, I quite like Dancing Queen even though it's very overplayed, but seeing Mrs. Chen and women who is taken over dancing around her suit is a better experience. It's also hard to tell if this is just to move the story along or if the writers really did forget that women already explained the consequences of being out in full in public for long. As such, Strickland's men have located them through the hotel CCTV, and as Venom is fully revealed, the codex is visible to the wood cipher alien, so they both turn up nearly at once. The wood cipher alien is killed temporarily, but it can regenerate over time. Eddie and Venom are captured, separated, and taken to Area 51. I have not mentioned Dr. Teddy Penny yet. She is in charge of the secret symbiote lab under Area 51, and you are supposed to care about her and her motivations. I don't, and it's probably why I have not mentioned her until now. She has been popping up in scene here and there, one of the first ones being a nightmare scene where she watches her brother get struck by lightning and killed. Her brother's dream of working for NASA is why she is scientist today. Maybe I am too cynical, but half of her plotline is seemingly shared with another character. Sadie, supernatural, and happy, making Dr. Penny quite wooden. Sadie seems to have more human awareness than Dr. Penny and recognizes what will happen if Edie and women are not reunited. Having also heard Detective Mulligan's warning about Knull. When the woman symbiote is taken for storage is a separate tab, she secretly picks it up. She waits for an opportune moment when Strickland is about to kill Eddie as payback for losing some of his men to the wood cipher alien. Venom takes over as Eddie and is about to launch an attack on Strickland when the wood cipher alien crashes through the ceiling and demolishes a load of people including Mulligan, which is a pretty sad ending for him and not a good use of Stephen Graham's acting abilities. Also, would not this part of the lab under a massive rocky hill that the wood cipher alien broke straight through? well, it's unstoppable, I guess. The other run back to the center part of the lab, and Sadie encourages Dr. Penny to release the symbiote, who then bond with different people around the room to fight off the wood cipher alien, although most perish. As the flight breaks into the outside world, Eddie runs into the Happy family who somehow managed to break into Area 51 so they could see some alien. They get a face full of them, and Happy Dad of the Years Martin nearly gets his family killed. Venom and the other symbiotes save them. Meanwhile, Knull has located the codex he needs to escape and sends lead more of his garden machinery alien through a portal to up the ante. Realizing there's no way out of this and that one of the pair must die to ensure the codex is destroyed, Beeman separates from Eddie and somehow merges all the Peter Jensen, inventor of the wood cipher alien, into one giant blob which he can just about move. Let's not dwell on how exactly that was given he has not been able to do this before. Despite my skepticism, again, there are some genuinely touching movements, and the scene delivers a sense of finality that this Dew gang under the name Lethal Protector is at its end. Venom encourages an injured Strickland to detonate the acid tanks that were on base earlier in the film. We saw them decommissioning Area 51 by melting things with acid. I wonder if this is how secret installations are actually proved. Anyway, the tanks blow up and Eddie, who Venom shielded with some debris, passes out from his injuries. He wakes up in hospital and is told that his criminal record has been cleared because of his and Venom's heroism. But he must never tell anybody. Then the movie ends with a montage of the Dew throughout the three movies set to some sad music, and there's a mid-credit out scene where Knull makes a threatening speech. There's also post-credit out scene where a small part of the women symbiote left over in a lab tube attaches to a roach to begin the whole thing again properly. Tom Hardy has made it pretty clear that this is the end of Sony Venom series of film, although I believe he is willing to play the character again in the future, or at least he is written it off. That's where I am at with this film too. I want to see Hardy play Venom again, as they were funny, interesting and heartfelt, but this felt like a letdown that I don't want to rewatch. Honestly, Eddie and Venom were the best part of the film, except from the ABBA number in that casino, which was too far. Venom The Last Dance, Tom Hardy's Marvel trilogy, Inter is easily the best of the series. Let's get something out of the way before we dive into discussing Venom The Last Dance. I am a Venom fan. When I reviewed the first Venom movie in 2018, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, which was on the generous side compared to other reviews. I have continued to stand by my rating. 6 years later, the first movie was refreshing even if it felt like it was made in the early 2000s, and it had tons of unexpected charms that was only made more delightful by Tom Hardy's all-in performance as Eddie Brock and Venom. Now I can say that Venom The Last Dance is everything that made the first movie entertaining and more. There's more of the offbeat and oddly sentimental dynamic between Eddie and Venom, as well as more exciting and as well as action scene, including one particularly fun sequence with Venom horse. There are also more of the clunkier aspect from the first Venom movie. There are exposition heavy Marvel lore dumps, especially when it comes to Knull, and scene where the scamper is laid on thick. Still, despite its imperfection, Venom The Last Dance is a wildly fun ride. Tom Hardy shines in Venom The Last Dance. Ever since Tom Hardy climbs into a tank full of lobster to deliver one of the most bonkers and fun scenes from Venom, It's been clear that actor is instrumental to the success of these films. Hardy's willingness to dive headfirst into the weird and strange world of Marvel's Venom is what has always helped make the relationship between Eddie and his symbiote as compelling and entertaining as it is. In Venom The Last Dance, Hardy holds nothing back, giving it all to his performance as both Eddie and Venom. It's a stroke of genius to simply let Hardy run wild as Eddie and Venom. Smartly, Venom The Last Dance leans entirely into the dynamic of Eddie and Venom, giving the two something of a buddy comedy road trip storyline in what Hardy has said will be his last outing as Venom. It's a visually reminiscence of the two-hander Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman pulled off in the summer's Deadpool and Wolverine, but with Hardy playing both the grumpy straight man in Eddie and the manic, drunk but ultimately good-hearted symbiote he hosts. It's a stroke of genius to simply let Hardy run wild as both character, even as it's clear it serves the film a larger story. The rest of the Venom The Last Dance cast is perfectly fine. The actor seems to take the movie as seriously as Hardy, but not too seriously. Juno Temple is a standout as Dr. Penny, a scientist dedicated to researching the Semitic capture by soldier Rex Strickland, played by an appropriately gruff Chiwetel Ejiofor. Rhys Ifans also has a delightful turn as Martin, a EFO atheist who's dragging this family along on a trip to Area 51. Piggy's Mr. Chen is the only franchise return, and through her role in somewhat ham-fisted into the movie, it's no less fun. Venom The Last Dance is more fans of the Venom movies. Despite Venom's connection to other Marvel characters in the comic, Venom The Last Dance is first and foremost meant to be a capstone of the Pacific trilogy. It's clear from every moment that Tom Hardy and writer director Kelly Marcel adore this version of the character that's been created across Sony 3 Venom movies, and they endeavor to give him a proper standoff. In that, they are undoubtedly successful. There may be moments when the Chinese and sentimentally become a little goofy, but the filmmakers' hearts are in the right place and the movie pluck at our heartstrings. You may be disappointed if you go into Venom The Last Dance hoping for this franchise to deliver something it never has before. However, you may be disappointed if you go to Venom The Last Dance hoping for the franchise to deliver something it has never before, like multiverse cameos or the showdown with a particular wall crawl, as Venom himself says early on in the movie. I am so done with this multiverse shit. From here, it's clear that Marcel and Hardy set out to focus on Eddie and Venom and the universe they have built in the franchise. And they do so in such a way that if you enjoy these characters, you will not even miss that could have been. Venom The Last Dance shows that what happened when you let a perfectly actor cast and a director with a lot of affection for the character run wild in a world of Marvel superheroes. You get a movie that's a little weird, a lot silly, full of fun. Venom The Last Dance is not a perfect movie and it may not be for everyone, but it is for everyone who has loved Eddie and Venom from the start. If you are like me, you will be irritated by the especially delightful last dance with Venom. If you are sad to see them go, and Venom The Last Dance is in theaters. Venom The Last Dance. No one could have predicted it years ago, but we have somehow gotten 3 solo outings for Venom in which he never once crosses path with his sworn enemy, occasional part of Spider-Man. When Tom Hardy was first announced to be starring in the original Venom, most audiences were probably expecting or feeling an overly angsty storyline that would end up falling flat on its face. with its attempt at self-seriousness. Instant winner was goofy, really goofy. For those wanting a broader take on Eddie Brock and his anti-hero alter ego, there must have been some disappointment. Yet of all of Sony's failed launches at their own mini cinematic universe for Spidey, the Venom series is the only one to achieve financial success. These are funny, glossarily wit movies that fully embrace themselves for what they are. For anybody, the first Venom is the best as it's more action heavy and has a bit more of a gritty edge to it, but Let There Be Carnage is just an entertainment by fully embracing the bizarre comedy that comes from what is essentially, let's face it, a love story. Is women and LGBT icon for this reason? You be the judge. This is my way of saying that Venom The Last Dance for me at least is easily the weakest of the trilogy, don't get me wrong. It's still fun and funny, and Hardy continues to be hilarious as both Eddie and his original partner. Unfortunately, The Last Dance also wants to be serious, at least on some level, but doesn't raise the stakes enough to justify it. Venom wants your tears. This time, people, does it work? I'm not really sure. It also lacks a memorable villain. Apologies, Knull fan, who I know are out there, but yeah, I'm someone who had to Google this name, sorry. But he barely shows up here, and if you want to actually see his face, you are going to want to stay for the credits. I will say he does look badass when he finally does get revealed. The Last Dance desire to have its Semitic climatic cake and eat it too, selling itself as a conclusion while trying to set up an uncertain franchise future. Where exactly is Sony planning on uses Knull if not is a Venom flick? The movie feels bullish and I hate to say it, even arrogant. So what we are left with is Venom fighting the same monster over and over, as Knull sends his follower to Earth to retrieve the codex which exists within him and Eddie and can free him from his internal prison. The bad news for the odd couple is that one of them has to die in order for it to get destroyed. Shit just get real. This information is given to Eddie by Venom early on, along with the revelation that Eddie cannot fully transform into him without alerting his home world, which can could argue is no excuse to give Hardy more face time and cut down the effect budget, but I discard, so the rules are never a secret to the audience. For some reason, the Lost Dance has an extended side story involving Area 51 being demolished and several scientists and soldiers researching Semitic life forms is an underground base. This ultimately amount to them learning exactly that Venom has already told Eddie, yet the film treats this knowledge as though it's a new revelation to the plot when they discover it. It comes across as borderline incompetent, and like it or not, this stuff takes up a good chunk of the runtime. And also, Chiwetel Ejiofor seems doomed to be typecast as authority figure who is kind of anything he does a comic book movie, but hey, a payhick. Venom, the Last Dance is the Tom Hardy movie, and it is the third installment in the Venom series. Venom The Last Dance is disappointing. If I could also use one word to describe Sony's Spider-Man universe, it would be messy. You'd think with a character like Spider-Man along with so many other characters linked to Spider-Man that Sony owns, it would be extremely hard to mess it up. But Sony has made it look so easy. The only thing Sony has gotten right with their current Marvel release are the two animated Spider-Verse films and their three films made with Marvel Studios. Other than that, Sony has made it very clear that they have no idea what they are doing, and their recent live action releases discrediting the home trilogy within the MCU prove it. The lack of cohesion and planning is so bafflingly obvious that it's hard to feel bad for Sony. Who do they keep making these mistakes, and will they ever stop? Maybe someday I will cover this in more detail, but today we're talking about their least problematic character, and that's Venom. Don't get me wrong, I don't think the women films are great, but they at least have some form of character and quality that films like Morbius and Medium Web strikingly lacked. I think that's mainly due to Tom Hardy's hysterically chaotic performance as Eddie Brock. Without Hardy, the Venom films might have ended up being ridiculed as much as Morbius and Medium Web. Hell, we probably would not have gotten a whole trilogy, but here we are. The third film in the trilogy, a trilogy that has delivered fun content while never failing to remind us that it's a Sony product. The first film was harmless, and while Let There Be Carnage awkward structuring left people wanting more Carnage, the second film was still a mostly fun drop. This third film, The Last Dance, was advertised as the film that would end the trilogy alongside Tom Hardy's final run as the titular anti-hero. They also heavily advertised Knull as the extremely popular villain from the comics who created the symbiotics we know and love, including Venom. Basically, Sony was promising a lot from the last and the question is, did they deliver? If you went into Venom the Last Dance expecting an epic battle between Venom and Knull, you will be disappointed. If you went in expecting Sony to touch on the multiverse rather than move fast and forget about what happened in the No Way Home post-credit scene, you will be disappointed. If you, like me, are an English major who just want to see good writing for once, you will be disappointed. But maybe, just maybe, you no longer get disappointed by Sony's Spider-Man universe because you just expect it all to be bad. If so, good on you after Morbius and Medium Web, and let's not forget about how they fumbled the amazing Spider-Man franchise 10 years ago. It's easy to just expect subpar if not bad live action materials, but it is okay to excited for this stuff, especially when Sony teaches so much in their trailers. Remember when a reference to Spider-Man popped up in trailer for Morbius? If not, it's easy to understand why none of them appeared in the movie other than the insanely random and pointless appearance of Major Cartoon Vulture. And as mentioned with this movie, Sony really wanted to get more excited to see Knull, a major villain from the comics who is extremely menacing. And we see him, sure. But he literally sits. He lifts his head once to reveal a completely CGI face, but Andy Serkis' vocal performance is impressive, but it's completely wasted because his character does nothing. And that's a shame. It's all just one big shame. For a majority of bad films, writing is the thing that makes or breaks it. Bad dialogue or needless exposition can often take someone out of a film, and if you mix that with bad acting, it gets even worse. Luckily for The Last Dance, I cannot say the performance were bad. Tom Hardy delivers his usual pathetic Brock and menacing Venom, and new additions including Chiwetel Ejiofor, Juno Temple, and Rhys Ifans do a fine job. The problem is that they are not given a whole lot to work with. Ejiofor's Rex Strickland is a typical angry military general who starts as an antagonist before having a change of heart in the final battle. There's nothing truly special about his character, and his media has a habit of appearing out of nowhere without actually showing us how they found the exact spot Eddie and Venom were in The first place is simply a mean to force Eddie and Venom to a specific spot so the plot can continue, and this change of heart doesn't feel cathartic in the slightest. Juno Temple's steady pain is not much different, but instead of being an antagonist, she acts as a tool to aid in the symbiote escape and to help the audience feel sympathetic toward the alien. Thus, she is given a backstory. Her character feels too forced into the plot. When I wanted to focus on Eddie and Venom, the movie would jump to her, and in the end, I just didn't care enough about her or her transformation into agony. Rhys Ifans Martin Moon in the character I like the least. Sorry, Spider-Man fans, he did not return as Court Connors. The box office performance of the movie. Venom 3 box office claims spot in top 10 highest grossing movies of 2024 ahead of digital debut. Venom The Last Dance is wrapping up its time in theater, meaning that its final box office haul is now available. The final installment in the Venom trilogy, the film promised to bring Eddie Brock Venom's story to a climactic end. Unfortunately, Venom 3 debuted to mixed reviews from critics, earning a 41% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Third, its audience score is almost double at 81%. According to Box Office Mojo, as of Sunday, December 8, the film has a domestic haul of 139 million and a foreign gross of 333 million, adding up to $473 million globally. Given Venom 3 reported budget of $120 million, this makes the film a modest success. However, it comes up short when compared to the other films in the series. 2018 Venom and the 2021 Venom's Let There Be Carnage each grossed about 213 domestically. This news hits just before Venom 3 is set to debut on streaming. The film, which also stars Juno Temple, Chiwetel Ejiofor and Stephen Graham, will be available on December 10. However, it can currently and be pre-played on Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV and VU. What Venom 3 being in the top 10 highest grossing movies of 2024. Aside from how it stacks up with the rest of the Venom trilogy, Venom 3 managed to snag a spot on the top 10 highest grossing movies of 2024. It currently sits at number 8, but with multiple huge releases coming up and several heavy hitters stayed in theater, Venom 3 may move down a few places. Currently, Wicked is performing box office magic, while Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Mufasa and Lord of the Rings The War of the Rohirrim all debut later this month. The film Inside Out 2 with $1.7 billion, Deadpool and Wolverine $1.3 billion, Despicable Me 4 $969 million, Dune Part 2 $714 million, and Moana 2 $600 million, Godzilla x Kong The New Empire $571 million, Kung Fu Panda 4 $547 million, Venom The Last Dance $473 million, Wicked $455 million, and Beetlejuice and Beetlejuice $451 million. This evening, Moana 2 overtook Venom 3, moving to 5th place on the lineup and surpassing the lifetime gross of Moana. Meanwhile, Wicked continues to break a record for musical films and, being only one spot below Venom 3, will likely overtake it. Moreover, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Mufasa are tracking at 55 million and 50 million for their opening weekends. If either film is a breakout hit, it would cut Venom 3 off the leaderboard. Our take on Venom 3 being in the top 10 highest grossing movies of 2024. At this stage, whether or not Venom 3 remains among the top 10 highest grossing films of 2024 depends on the performance of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Mufasa, which will likely pass the superhero film, but that would not be enough to push it out of the top 10. Therefore, there is a slim chance that Venom 3 could be one of the top films of 2024. Venom The Last Dance ending and post-credit scene explain what is the future of Eddie Brock. Let's make this simple. You want to know if there are any post or mid-credit scene in Venom The Last Dance? The answer is yes. Stick around for both the mid-credit and the final moments after the credits are done rolling. The Venom trilogy has come to a close with The Last Dance, and although this movie ties to the story of Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock and everyone's favorite Brian Munching symbiote, there are still some thread left to pull on in further Sony Marvel movies. There's also the fact that Hardy has said he is open to playing the character again. We will get to those in a bit, but first let's talk about what actually happens in this movie. So how does The Last Dance play out? Let's get into it. Knull and Wade. The Last Dance opens with the scene fans will recognize from the film's trailer, the very brief introduction of Knull, the god of the symbiotes, who was created by Tony Cates and Ryan Sittingham. Knull is played by Andy Serkis, who you might recall directed the second Venom film, Let There Be Carnage. Knull is trapped in a void on the planet Klyntar and can only get out via something called the Codex. If you are getting Man of Steel flashback, so are we. How the Codex works is not completely clear, but apparently Venom has one because of Eddie briefly died in the past. In the first film, which means Knull is sending his hounds, the xenophages, to find him, or one of them anyway, which arrive on Earth and begins hunting down Venom with the caveat that it can only see the Codex when Eddie is fully transformed into Venom. If Eddie is just himself or with small bits of the symbiote coming out of his body, he is invisible to the xenophage. If either Eddie or Venom is killed, then the Codex will cease to exist. It's established early on that the Codex can only survive if both the symbiote and its host are alive. If either Eddie or Venom is killed, then the Codex will cease to exist. So Eddie and Venom are on the run because the xenophage is trying to get them. They are also on the run from the government because Eddie is being blamed for some death in the last movie because hey, why not have two motivations for the same action? This is how Chiwetel Ejiofor's Rex Strickland and Juno Temple's Dr. Teddy Payne get in on the action. When the pair working for Area 55, an extra top secret extraterrestrial research facility built under Area 55, which is just normal top secret we guessed and is currently being dismantled. Dr. Payne has a whole bunch of symbiote down in her lab, including Toxin, which has been bonded to Stephen Graham's Patrick Mulligan, who survived the last film. Toxin reveals to Strickland and Pine that Knull is a threat to the entire universe, leading everyone to get on the same page about needing to prevent him from retrieving the Codex with so far. Venom The Last Dance ending explain. The movie culminates in everyone getting to Area 55, where the xenophage bust in and start wrecking the place. After Toxin and Mulligan are killed, the other symbiotes are freed and begin bonding with some of the staff to fight off the xenophage. It's made clear here that the symbiotes have no evil design for humanity and they actively try to help Strickland and his forces fight off the xenophage. The battle spills outside where the xenophage retrieves backup from more of its skin. Why that didn't happen earlier, we don't know. Eddie and Venom save a family of alien atheists who help them on their journey. Led by Rhys Ifans as Martin, who is definitely not Kurt Connors from The Amazing Spider-Man. Dr. Penny also becomes pounded with a symbiote during the fighting, who, going by her appearances and coloration, seems to be Agony from the comics. Penny's symbiote form also has super speed powers because she was struck by lightning as a kid. Sure, why not? With Venom seemingly dead, Eddie is hospitalized where he is told that his criminal record has been expunged. Because the xenophages has remarkable healing factors, they can put themselves back together even after being shredded into dozens of chunks and kill most of the other symbiote. It seems Venom and Eddie are tossed, realizing that there's no way to end Knull's threat without destroying the Codex. Venom decides to sacrifice himself, separating from Eddie and wrapping himself from the xenophages, bunching them together as if he were the strongest bubblegum in the cosmos. He then puts them and himself under an acid shower that Strickland was using to destroy materials from Area 55. Venom and the xenophages are killed by the shower, and so it's Strickland because he sets off a grenade which causes the whole thing to explode. Vaporizing the Codex, Knull can evidently sense this because we see a shot of him getting in an angry no as this happens. Penny saves her co-worker Sadie thanks to her after-mentioned super speed. With Venom seemingly dead, Eddie is hospitalized, where a random journal tells him that his criminal record has been expunged, but under the condition he never tells everyone about his experiences with the symbiote. Eddie then goes to New York City and looks at the Statue of Liberty, something he and Venom said they wanted to do together, promising to never forget his symbiote pale. Okay, but what about the post-credit scene, and is Venom really dead? As mentioned earlier, The Last Dance has two post-credit scenes that hint at the future of the franchise, even if this run of Venom solo movies is apparently over. The first is the mid-credit scene where we get one more look at Knull, who says, "Our champion has fallen, the king is black, is awake. You fought with one and you will watch." Although his plans were foiled this time round, this tease confirmed that Sony wants him to play a major role in more films down the line. Director Kelly Marcel echoes this is an interview where he said this is just the beginning of Knull. The second season is at the very end of the credits, featuring the Pretender played by Christopher Fernandez, who first appeared in the post-credit scene of Spider-Man No Way Home. The Pretender has a variant in the Sony universe with longer hair, and this one was kidnapped by Strickland forces earlier in the film. He emerges from the wreckage of Area 51 and calls out of anyone. He then sees a broken vial which one contained a symbiote, seemingly Agony, because there's some purple light in that there is approached by a roach. That's it. So the big question we have now is that Venom is really dead? Probably not, because when Strickland captures the Pretender, he saves him from a small piece of the symbiote that Venom left behind. Strickland contained this piece in a vial, very similar to the one in the post-credit scene, and we never see it again. We don't know if this loose thread will be the way Sony revive Venom down the line, but with more Knull and Sony Marvel movies said to be on the way, we'd be surprised if the most popular symbiote character doesn't return in some form in the future films. The one other loose thread is that Strickland revived order from a shoddy figure we never see clearly. This appears to be a Dr. Dan Lavish, Annie Whining Fancy from the previous films, because actor Red Scott is credited. We don't know what he is up to, but he obviously has an interest in the symbiotes. Perhaps we will learn more about his plans in Kraven the Hunter or another Sony Marvel film. So what did you think of Venom the Last Knot? Do you think this is a worthy ending for Eddie and Venom's story? Let's tell us in the comment section. The recent long-awaited cluttering of the superhero movie with a notable Deadpool-sized expression has led to a mad scramble, a release date pushed, targeting strategy tweaked, Robert Downey Jr.'s tribe, and a constant question mark over what the future might hold for Hollywood's most commercially lucrative contemporary genre. Venom 3 The Last Dance. It's fair to say that we are in the dying days of the superhero movie boom. No, I don't mean the superhero movie is going away. It's not. Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine recently became a box office success and audience seems to like it too. I was not a fan. But these days Deadpool and Wolverine feels more like the exception rather than the rule. There was a time there when it seems like any superhero movie was too big to fail, but after being integrated with a constant barricade of comic book character part to digital life, audiences are starting to grow wary. It certainly doesn't help that the vast majority of these movies are not very good either. As a critic, I'm not really concerned with box office. I have no financial stake in the movies, so whatever it earns opening weekend doesn't really interest me. No, what I am interested in is quality. How is the movie itself? Does it work? Does it at least entertain, or does it feel like it's wasting my time? After Disney and Marvel team up to create the MCU with widely successful adults, other studios wanted is on that sweet superhero action, most notably the folk at Sony. Sony is lucky enough to have the rights to character from superhero comics, and while the studio struck a deal to bring Spidey into the MCU in the form of Tom Holland, access got in their heads that they could make their own movies using Spider-Man adjacent characters. Aside from the delightful animated Spider-Verse movie, the result have been a desire. Remember Morbius? Of course you don't, and this year's Madame Web felt like a punchline before it even hit theater. The only luck Sony has had outside of the Spider-Verse flicks has been with Venom, a cool 90s Marvel comic character who likes to stick his slimy tongue out. Frequently a villain in the comic, the movie has turned Venom into a hero who occasionally bites off people's head. These films have been successful at the box office, but what quality about? The first Venom is kind of a slog, although it has moments of fun, almost entirely due to the weirdo vibes of star Tommy Hardy. Hardy is one of our more interesting modern actors, and he is able to salvage the first film by going things like randomly climbing into a lobster tank at a seafood restaurant. The sequel, Venom Let There Be Carnage, improved on the formula. It learned into silliness and took things even further by suggesting Hardy's character Eddie Brock and the alien symbiote Venom that possesses him are more than just buddies. They are in a rom-com relationship. Let There Carnage seems to be saying Venom is Eddie Brock's boyfriend. Now here comic Venom The Last Dance, the conclusion to the lopsided trilogy. Unfortunately, everything that was fun about Let There Be Carnage has been gestation for a rushed, clumsy, lackluster final. Not even a Venom horse can save this movie. When we last left Eddie Brock and Venom, they had been sucked into an alternate universe, the MCU to be exact. But if you thought Venom the Last Dance would grapple with this, you are wrong as the film begins. Eddie, the Venom are almost instantly thrown back into their own world. There they find themselves fugitive on the run, thanks to some clumsy exposition delivered via news reporter. A lazy trick the movie uses more than once. Eddie learns he is accused of a crime he didn't commit, and now he and Venom are trying to make it to the New York City to lay low. Meanwhile, We learn about some symbiote experiment going on at the secret science lab known as Area 55. Area 55 is located underneath the famous Area 51, the US Air Force facility, and that has become synonymous with alien activity in the pop culture zeitgeist. More clumsy news report expedition tells us that Area 51 is about to be shut down, but that doesn't seem to matter since Area 55 is clearly going strong. The scientists at the lab eventually learned of a new looming threat, Knull, and even got Alien D to create all the symbiotes. It's clear the Sony want to set Knull up as their version of Thanos, but the character has virtually no real impact there, spending his sad scene sitting around with his long hair wanging down his face, looking like a matchily hot topic employee who just got laid off. Null is looking for something known as the Codex, uninterested Mafkin, which has a direct connection to Eddie and Venom. And while Null is temporarily trapped on his gloomy planet, he is still able to send fourth giant monster known as xenophages, and now one of those beasts is on Earth trying to track Eddie and Venom down. I'm getting bored, just type this and you will be bored too. All of this is presented in rather bland, door fashion, and the enjoyable stillness that was so prevented in the last movie is almost entirely absent here. There are a few moments of goofy life, like when Venom uses his alien coat to create a Venom horse, and then a Venom fish and a Venom frog, or when Venom has a brief dance number with recording character Mr. Chain. But these are over so quickly they barely register. It's as if writer director Kelly Marcel has handed a study note that asks if there any way we can make this movie less fun. Tom Hardy is the one bright spot of Venom The Last Dance. If there is no bright spot in Venom The Last Dance, it's Tom Hardy. Once again doing a questionable voice while vibing on his weirdo energy, Hardy makes Eddie Brock an almost tragic figure, a lonely guy cut off from the rest of the world with only a voice-cracking alien monster for company. He shuffles about, he is a man uncomfortable in his own skin, looking awkward and aghast. He is operating on a different level than this Lucy film. Unfortunately, he is not getting much makeup. The previous two movies at least has folk like Michael William and Woody Harrelson on hand to take some of the weight off Hardy's shoulders. The Last Dance has talented actor in supporting role, but they are all grossly lacking here. The very skilled Chiwetel Ejiofor is given absolutely nothing to work with as a military man who wants to take Eddie down, and Juno Temple, usually quite good, is surprisingly weak as a scientist who wanted to study the symbiotes. She is given a clunky backstory about now her twin brother has struck by lightning when they were kids, or some such nonsense, but it's handled so poorly it might as well as not be in the movie at all. All of the supporting cast, only Rhys Ifans has any real impact here, playing an amusing alien-obsessed family man who befriended Eddie along the way. Don't expect much in the way of blockbuster spectacular either. While The Last Night is mercifully shot and moves at a collide speed, the action in this film is a confusing, ugly manner with lots of sweeping camera movements likely inserted to cover up VFX work. A big climatic fight scene is truly intended to view, but it does anything but. The end result feels like a finished film and more like a rough cut that never got around to be finished.